Folks, I want to show you some pictures here, and these are not going to be in very good order. Oh, you're in the dirt. I thought you were in a box. Oh, both. Oh, terrific. Okay, good. I was thinking that we wouldn't have the opportunity to show you in the dirt over there, but we do, so I will forego this. Anyone who wants to see more detail about that, talk to me and I'll send you these pictures. Thank you, David. I somehow had the idea that we didn't have the dirt over there. So what I want to do now is show you Jacob Mittleider's backyard garden, quickly, and what that's about. Let's just see what's possible in a small yard. Do you folks have as much as 20 by 50 feet that you could convert to a garden? If not, start small, because you can grow a tremendous amount in very small spaces, David has shown you. Jacob had a tiny yard, about 1.18 acres, 1/6 of an acre, and he had a decent-sized house and a double-car garage and a patio thing in addition to his garage. And he still managed to grow food enough to sell to the organic markets in Salt Lake City. Whenever he wasn't around the world helping others, he was living out of his garden because he's a vegetarian as an Adventist. Growing boxes, we'll do that in the garden, so we won't take a lot of time to show you here, but you use 2x8s treated, and you build them any length, 18-inch wide outside dimension. Automating your watering. David, do we have some automated watering over there to show them? Way to go. That'll be something that you'll want to look at as well. Here's the protection we've talked about, what he did in his yard. He had a commercial greenhouse and two that he built himself. You saw pictures of those before. This is what they looked like in early March when snow was on the ground, but he had plants growing. Here's how you protect if you've got boxes. You can just put a 3/4 inch PVC pipe in the ground there, and then you slip a 1/2 inch pipe into it, and all of these instructions are there, filling your box with sawdust and sand, or any of several other items that are clean and inert that don't cause any harm. And there are your 1/2 inch arched PVC. We would call that an A-frame mini greenhouse. See how they go inside the 3/4 inch pipe? That holds them securely. Those are the measurements: 8-inch sides, legs, 19-inch sides, and 6-inch tops. It's in the books. We did not have a handout prepared for these, but a lot of this information is on the so-called Facebook group and the Yahoo group. So there's a lot of information on this. You bet. Okay, the wire right there is for vertical growing. When these plants grow, and we tie the baling twine string up at the top and down at the bottom. I think you'll see that when we get to the garden. So if you put 6 mil greenhouse plastic over these, they'll go a long way toward protecting your garden against the cold winds and cold weather in the early spring and even in the late fall. So you see that one's covered, and then of course this is what it looks like uncovered. You can put those inside a greenhouse, and then you put the greenhouse covering over that, you got double protection. And that double protection can protect them against even a hard frost. At the warm days, if it's above 55 degrees, you take the ends open. Above 70, you take them off. Just going to go quickly. We teach you how to do seedling production. Don't have time today to get into the details of that, but we'll show you some of this material over the garden so that you can replicate it and do it yourself. I have planted, I want you folks who are growers to pay close attention. I have planted and grown 1,050 potato plants in 18 inches square. How many potato plants can you grow in a square box 18 inches? I'm talking just starting. What did I do? I used seeds. Anybody ever even seen potato seeds? Those 1,050 potatoes in that one little box very quickly became 15 boxes. And then I was giving them to the neighbors and planting them out in the garden. So the nice thing about this, you see, all you have to do is keep that little thing warm and in sunlight for that first 2 or 3 weeks, and then you expand it out into bigger space where each individual plant has maybe 2 to 3 inches. But to begin with, it takes very little space to grow your seedlings this way.
Question about pressure treating. You mentioned pressure treating. I always thought that was harmful.
Up until a few years ago, treated lumber had arsenic in it. That has been outlawed. There no longer is arsenic in treated lumber. We found
there's still heavy metals like chromium and things.
Not that I know of. There's some copper in it. Copper is actually an essential plant nutrient, but we have found no harm whatsoever. The USDA and everybody says that the treated lumber is safe now. So, very simply, growing seedlings, you just use the weekly feed mix that we've already told you about. 1 ounce in 3 gallons of water, and you water your plants every time with that, what we call constant feed solution. Notice Jacob takes names that have meaning, that teach you what you're doing. He actually had these plants ready to plant 1st of May. Everybody else is planting tiny seedlings. His were already flowering, and he was having fruit here in Utah before the end of June.
So you tell us we don't need to use Miracle Grow anymore, we can use this.
I love the comparison. One of the Mittleider growers living near Cornell University did a comparison about 3 years ago for a growing season, and she grew some plants with Miracle Grow, some plants with the Mittleider system of growing. Anyone interested in reading about that, you can get on the Yahoo Groups site and see her documentation of the results. Enough said.
Are you sketching there with 3 things that set up in the past? I use these little pots, soil. Are you suggesting just use a larger pot?
Well, there are options, certainly. Understand that this system of growing is designed so that the poorest of the poor can do it. It doesn't have to be fancy. You don't have to have those little 6-packs. You can grow in a box that you can make for $1 or $2 or $3, and it'll last you for 10 years. And you can grow in the sawdust and sand, just with holes in it to mark the spaces. We'll show you the spacer, and then all you do is take them out and plant them. So you don't have to have all that fancy stuff. It grows perfectly well in straight sawdust and sand without the cups or the pots or the whatever. Yes?
It looked like you were doing kind of a drip irrigation system with your PVC pipe. In this other slide, you've got this mixture juice.
Okay, 2 different things. The PVC pipe is in the garden. The constant feed solution is when you're growing seedlings. If you're in your greenhouse or your bench or whatever. So the constant feed solution is in the greenhouse. The PVC pipe and the once a week fertilizing is in the garden. Yes?
I'm sorry, this is a naive question, but in the past I've used these 6 packs, if you call them, in my garage. Started. Is there a significant difference to having them outside?
Oh yes. Oh yeah. Outside is better because nothing can match catch direct sunlight. So if you put them outside in the garden greenhouse with maybe a little small greenhouse inside of that, you'll get the double protection and you have direct sunlight. Yes, David? 3 minutes? Get out of here, I got at least 4. Okay, really quickly. Growing plants vertically, we'll show you in the garden, but this is what it looks like. Those baling twine strings. Pole beans will grow, climb automatically. Melons, squash, cucumbers, those things grow great vertically. And we're only planting 9 inches apart. Every plant, 9 inches apart. It's when you take them up like this that they become 18 inches apart, plus 30 some inches apart this way, and they get all the light they need. You see, planting them close together in one row at the base, they get the water and the fertilizer very close, and the roots spread out, but you're able to work in the bed. So that's the hydroponic method, you see. That's one of those principles and procedures that we borrowed from hydroponic growers. We remove sucker stems so that the plant doesn't have too much growth, top growth, for it to be productive. So we show you that. How would you like to have tomatoes like that? Melons. Dozens of melons in a few feet of space. All of these pictures are in Jacob Mittleider's backyard. He was, like I said, selling them to the organic markets. That was one picking from 2 20-foot beds. 2 20-foot long beds. Yeah. Mildred's enjoying her lawn before Jacob took it out. And doubled the size of the garden very quickly. Here's what the beds are going to look like, with ridges and a depressed area there. That's the planting area. You don't plant on the ridges. The aisle is lower than the planting area. Most plants, you're going to plant 2 rows in that space, like you see there in the picture. 2 rows. But the tall plants, we plant 1 row. She's got corn there. She's doing weeding. Simple, with a rake. All you do is pull the ridge down, rake it back, and you've killed those tiny weeds. This year, he was growing 2 rows of tomatoes in a bed with stakes, and he determined that that was not the best. 1 row is better, T-frames are better, and they're less expensive. All of those painted stakes were pretty pricey and nowhere near as efficient as the hydroponic method of 1 row with strings going like that. So don't do this one. Again, our pre-planted weekly feed, and we're ready to go to the garden.
Please stay where you are for just a minute while I give you directions.